Yep, it's me again. They hate us. This is why they give a fuck about us at the same time. As always, I am your host, JD Miles. The MGTOWs, they love to hate. Even the ones who claim everybody loves to hate them, loves to hate MGTOWs at the same time as always, which is why they keep us relevant to this very day. And I'm back again. For tonight's topic of discussion, Doge is now gunning for child support. Now, when I first heard about this, I was hesitant. I was hesitant to talk about this, and I've known about this for the past few weeks. However, I did not want to make a video about it because of the fact that when you have certain stories like this, it turns out to be fake news, such as excuse me, such as the fact that they claimed Donald Trump was going to change the divorce laws, in which I was hesitant about making a video about that too, until more information came out. Come to find out, that was fake news. Thank God I did not make a video about that and embarrass myself. But this is the reason why. Oftentimes it's wise to hang back until further information drops before you address it. That being said, this was the reason why I was hesitant to make a video about this until more information came out. But now that I know that the New York Post, Newsbreak, the Daily Herald, and other news outlets is also speaking about this, as well as other content creators is speaking about this, I feel confident enough to make a video about it now. And speaking of which, shout out to Cheeses Ed, the host of the Coffee Pod. I'll leave the link to his full video in the description box, as well as I'm going to put links to these news outlets in the comment section as well. Go check it all out. And yes, they are up in arms and in their feelings about this. Me personally, I have my reasons. I myself have my reasons of why Doge should look into this child support thing, especially with everything that's about to be brought up. But enough of me talking. Let's get down to business, shall we?
Y'all know that the wealthiest man in the world only paid $2,700 a month for 3 of his kids in child support. Mm-hmm. The wealthiest man, Elon Musk, because Texas has a cap. You can't pay no more than $2,700 a month for 3 kids. So that applies to anyone, regardless of how much money you make. Whereas you have people like Nick Cannon paying $3 million a year. You have people like Kanye West paying $200,000 monthly for child support. But Elon,
how much does Cannon pay?
$3 million a year.
$3 million a year. God damn, man.
People like Kanye West paying $200,000 monthly for child support. But Elon, $2,700 a month for 3 kids.
Well, move to Texas. I'm seeing a lot of people create a lot of different think pieces on the Elon Musk being granted access to the child support database. A lot of people have questions like, is he going to get rid of child support? I don't think so.
Yeah, I doubt it. I would say he's not going to get rid of it completely, but rather, how that saying goes, he's picking his targets and he's going with it. That's how I see it. He's not getting rid of child support completely, but rather he's going after certain parts of child support. But that's what I'm getting out of it. Let's continue.
On the high hope spectrum, that's out there and probably not happening, right? But I do think that if we can get any type of change whatsoever, then that would be a good thing. I think people are just excited that there's somebody who is a government entity who's actually addressing these problems, who can probably relate to it, right? The caption of this video says Elon Musk only pays $2,760 a month in child support for 3 kids. That is true. Texas has a cap. If I was Nick Cannon, I wouldn't have, well, if I was Nick Cannon, I wouldn't be doing what he's doing. But if I was Nick Cannon and I wanted to have more children, they would be in Texas for this very reason, because millions of dollars in child support is just insane.
And now
Indeed.
Elon is attacking child support, the Department of Child Support. That's next on his list to dismantle. Could you imagine if Nick Cannon was the head of Doge? That will cause a civil war. And if Elon was black, bro, there'll be
rioted. There'll be riots in the streets. And everybody will start losing their shit. You don't have to tell me about that. I know it.
They'll be calling all his kids' name ghetto. Because what is X? What is AE? What is Pi 314? Ghetto names.
You guys know my stance personally. You may have a different one. Cool. But a bunch of kids without a present father who can be there as much as possible is, to me, not the ideal situation. Put all that aside, this is...
Indeed, I do agree. Especially if the mother is keeping the fathers away from their children. And no, these retarded fucks can't tell us differently. Yes, you got these mothers out here who are intentionally keeping their fathers away from their kids, which is why I call them single mothers by choice. And I don't give a fuck who gets mad about that shit. The truth is the truth. But let's continue.
This is still very exciting for people who are thinking of the possibilities. The possibilities of what? The possibilities of some type of change. On my last video, somebody said, hey, one of the top comments here was, I've heard that men are paying child support even after they've been proven not to be the father of a child.
And that is true. Keep in mind as well. Years ago, I talked about the fact that in some states, such as Detroit, you have this dad by default laws. Especially out here where I'm at in Colorado, they still trying to hang on to their dad by default laws out here as well. This is why I'm happy that Tennessee changed their laws to where DNA tests should be mandatory. And for those of y'all who don't know, last year I flew out to Atlanta to help support one man who was fighting this battle alone. And this one man was trying to make paternity, trying to make it to a point to where unless she gets a paternity test and prove that that's actually her child's father, then no, she cannot put him on child support. And I'm happy they passed that law out there in Georgia. More importantly, I was happy to be part of that. And this is what Uncle JD calls making progress. And no, if you want to make progress, then you can't just be going around just talking about progress. You gotta be more than willing. To throw your hat in the ring. I did by showing my support, and I'm happy Georgia passed that law. So basically, unless they can prove that that's actually the child's father, by taking a paternity test, then no, she cannot put him on child support, regardless of whether they like it or not. But I digress. Let's continue.
That in itself should be one of the first things that should be addressed. Imagine being cheated on, because these are the stories that I've heard multiple times. You guys have been watching the Coffee Pod for a while. You've seen this. You're married. And in many states, if you're married to a chick, she steps out, some guy comes in, right, busted cheeks, and you end up catching her. Now, you can't handle it, right? You want a divorce. What happens? That child legally, since she had that child while you're married, is your child, legally. And there are a bunch of men out here who are paying child support for children who are not theirs, who are in that type of a situation.
Exactly. But you got retarded fucks out here who thinks maternity fraud isn't real. You got retarded fucks out here thinking that both paternity fraud and maternity fraud isn't real. And let me go ahead and follow Jesus and Cab on this. Say for instance, woman gets pregnant, she don't know who the father is. And because she don't know, she decided to write any man's name on that birth certificate, whether or not he's the father. That right there is paternity fraud, because she forged a man's name on that birth certificate. And now that man, a dad by default, has now got to pay child support, not even knowing whether or not that's his child. You see how fucked up this system is? I do. Let's continue.
Situation. Think of how tormenting that is. I mean, really think about how tormenting that is. Money coming out of your hard-earned paycheck, all for you to give it to another man's kid. Nobody wants a sip of that coffee. No one. Goes on to say, I hope those people get some relief.
But here's the fucked up part too. Even if that man proves to the courts he is not the child's biological father, you think they give a fuck? Hell no. They will still force that man to pay child support. And it still goes on out here where I'm at in the state of Colorado. And I'm happy that the mayor is now pushing back against this. And he has my full support. Enough's a fuck enough. And there are other situations where Doge needs to look at in this situation. But this is our main focal point. And I hope Doge looks into this as well. But let's continue.
Things like that need to be addressed. On the topic of Texas, I personally believe that needs to be adopted in every single state. Every state needs to follow Texas and have some sort of statewide cap when it comes to how they calculate child support. Because then I bet you would.
Yeah, that and they need to follow behind Tennessee and Georgia as well. Not just Texas, Tennessee and Georgia as well. And I don't give a damn what anybody says. In fact, anyone telling y'all different is one retarded fuck ass low thinking moron. Let's continue.
You wouldn't have situations like the Anthony Edwards situation where everybody's shocked that he wants to let go of his parental rights when it comes to a child that he did not want to have with an adult star. What were you doing messing with an adult star? Okay, granted, that's a good question. But apart from that, we know that these chicks, this is what they do. The same woman that got pregnant by him, she also got pregnant by a rapper. So what is she doing? She's getting those checks. It obviously benefits her. But what if the benefit was only a couple of thousands of dollars? I don't think these chicks would continue to do that, right?
Nope, so not at all.
I don't look at what Elon Musk is paying in Texas as something that's a bad thing. I think that should be the standard overall. I actually didn't know that Texas had a cap child support and exactly how it was calculated. Could you imagine how things would change?
Me neither. Me neither. And I'm being brutally honest about that. This is this is first news to me. But let's continue.
And I get it. People are like, family court laws and child support are state laws, and the president cannot affect those. But let's not forget that the program they use under Title 4D to go after a lot of men who pay child support, and some women too, is government. I don't want to say funded. It is to some extent, but they reimburse them 66% of the money that they spend. And so there is a possibility here. For example, this is just me, I'm speculating here, imagining how this might be addressed. If, let's say they wanted to fix the situation with the false paternity test, they could implement some sort of policy that could encourage them to make sure that they take those fathers off child support who've been proven to not be the father, right?
Right.
The only way that these states would do this is if you'd affect their reimbursement or the bonuses that they give them for going after men. Yes, they do give these states bonuses. And so they might accrue penalties, for example, if they audit them, so on and so forth. And in case you guys didn't know, if
case in point, they've taken bribes, in which I would say is just downright corruption at best. But everybody's supposed to be okay with this shit. Let's continue.
If you think that wouldn't be very effective, most paternity test labs here, says it right here, that about 1/3 of their paternity tests have a negative result. Think about that. And this is without mandatory paternity tests at birth. Can you imagine the havoc that would be caused if paternity tests were mandatory at birth? It would be insane.
Indeed.
I think a lot of things would happen. One of the things I think that would happen is that chicks would stop being 304s, right? Stop letting any dude clap the cheeks for fun. And then cheating obviously would be more of a risk. So that may go down. With that being said, I understand that now you have to put a task force together to go hunt down Chad and Pookie and whoever else is out here on a mission to create broken homes, right? Who wants to do that? Who wants to go on a Pookie scavenger hunt? Let's check out a few comments here. No DNA, no child support. This is good.
Yeah.
This is what people want right here. Somebody says, I 100% agree. Plus, people who paid should get back pay with interest if found they are not the parent. I think most men,
I agree
even
too.
The ones who may be currently paying child support, I think most men are reasonable. I don't think most men are asking for child support to be abolished completely. Now, they're asking for accountability and transparency to a serious degree. And I definitely think they need to audit the child support system for fraud. This next commenter says, as a single childless man, I'm tired of paying for single moms. Somebody else who says, the whole family court system needs to be overhauled. Yeah. But there's a lot of change.
Oh, I definitely agree with that comment right there. And I'm glad that he brought it up too, because there are courts where even though you are not biologically the father, they still try to convince men. They still trying to convince men to still support a child that's not theirs. That shit doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with other men as well. If he's not the father, then why don't he get to decide whether or not, if he's going to continue supporting or not? Why does the courts try to convince these men who are not the biological father to still continue on with the fraud? I mean, that reminds me of that Steve Wilkos show. Young dude find out he's not the father, but yet you have his mother who's so desperate to be a grandparent that she tries to convince her son to still be in the child's life, still take care of him. But Steve Wilkos jumped in, intervene on that shit. He's like, why are you trying to convince him to still take care of a child that's not his? And to be honest, isn't it up to him to make that decision, not anyone else? In which I do agree. If I find that Steve Wilkos episode, that link will be in the comments section as well, so y'all could go see for yourselves. But by the end of the day, it's up to him to decide his fate on that. No one else. But that's my opinion. Let's continue.
To change. I don't think people should, because some people are like, man, why are you guys even talking about this or celebrating over this? Because this is exciting news. This is real life. This affects real people in real life, and things need to change. Listen, as always, I appreciate you guys for checking out yet another episode of the Coffee Pod.
And straight up. And most of these people sitting there saying this shit, they don't know how it is to be on that receiving end. They don't. And some believe that this shit is supposed to be normal. These fucking half-dead zombie-ass motherfuckers out the gate. But I'm going to stop it right here. And once again, shout out to Jesus at the host of the Coffee Pot. If y'all want to watch his full video in its entirety, I'll leave the link in the comment section, as well as links to these news outlets who are also talking about this as well. Go check him out. Tell him JD Miles sent you. But that's all I got for tonight. I'm done and I'm out this bitch. Later.